back again. Within living memory, in Texta, a little over 25 years ago, a mixed band of small folk and former pirates came into Texta through the Western Gate. They founded the settlement of Udeskjofjord on the shore of a lake in the deepest part of the mountains caldera, and have thrived there since. Today, having been told all the remembered stories from these settlers, most of whom are still alive, a group of explorers are headed in the opposite direction. In a mad dash to escape their pursuers, the former pirates traveled 2 months overland from the coast to Texta. Our much smaller party will be traveling a great deal slower. Second. As the previous 6 groups we've documented thus far, these are part explorer, part diplomat, part merchant. They carry letters of marque, their official documentation, their provisions for travel. They're carried on a small wagon drawn by a pair of goats. Those assigned this mission have a bit of luxury. They know which languages are most likely to be useful in their travels. It's a great advantage, a great boon over many of the other directions. They travel through scrub plains and low hills, broken only by occasional patches of dense woodland and rocky outcrops. The weather and temperature are relatively stable, with no rain until their 2nd month of travel. Around this time, they also find sporadic farmsteads, held by a variety of peoples. They bring news of Texta's existence and the possibility of market trade if the farmers have surplus to sell or provisions they need to buy. The farmers in turn mention their own difficulties stemming from very rare raids by gnolls coming in from the north, but that they very seldom reach this far into their territory and have not done so at all in the past 2 years. The farmers also speak of occasional trips to the coastal cities and towns for provision and trade, and that Texta might be a great deal closer for their purposes. Granted, there are very few elders among these farmsteads that grumble about ancient curses and diseases stemming from the lands our travelers call home. These interactions take time away from our band and become more numerous as they continue westward. But spreading word of the potential for trade is an important part of their mission overall. After 3 months of travel, and after documenting the wildlife, mapping their surroundings the entire time, God, I hate having such a dry throat. Our band finds the ground is getting softer. The brush and trees are getting more dense, and the rain is becoming more frequent. They enter marshlands and mud that the former pirates had spoken of. The ground, though muddy, remains solid enough for the small wagon to pass, of course with some difficulty. It is initially surmised that this must be the same rough track that the farmsteads used to reach the coast. It's later found that this assumption is wrong, and the farmers use a much more stable pathway, only a mile or two north of where our party entered the swamps. Exiting the marshland, about 2 weeks after entering it, our travelers find themselves on a saltwater shore. They have reached the sea. On the beach before them, they find ruined and burned buildings, much in the style constructed at Udesco Fort. Broken docks and damaged or destroyed boats, littering the area, some pulled ashore and more visible under the water. They look out over a small natural harbor, a small bay, deep water opening to the larger ocean beyond. There are no signs of life here, nor valuables left behind. Surveying their surroundings and walking to the edges of the little bay, they sight several boats and ships of differing sizes spread out across the water. Further to the north, along the shoreline, they can barely make out other sets of docks in the distance. They see ships in port, both along the shore and at a few islands they can see towards the horizon. They find no roads along the shore, and beyond this small bay there's no visible beach either. It's low cliffs lining the water's edge, as far as they can see in any direction. So further travel is necessarily going to be by boat. It takes some small effort and a day of salvage and repair to bring one of the damaged boats to a usable state. The next morning, they tie their goats by the halter to the gunwales of the vessel and begin rowing northward toward the nearest visible settlement. The journey across the waves is difficult. They are, of course, rowing where they see most of the other small vessels around them bearing sails. After about a half a day, they reach the docks and are met by an elf with a ledger, asking for their information and manifest, and asking payment to dock their vessel. The price seemed rather steep, but it is paid. The coins are not recognized by their stamp, but are accepted for their weight and material. After explaining their mission and asking after a higher authority to speak to, our intrepid band are directed to the local intendant's office. She, they are told, is the representative of the Sovereign Council who rule the shoreline settlements, as well as the visible islands and many more beyond what can be seen from shore. Their ships and soldiers strictly control trade and travel across the sea and have very little patience for any interruption in their control. Following the directions they were given, and seeing all manner of folk, in all manner of social status or caste, our explorers find themselves being before an imposing stone edifice. A single door, very few windows, which are both small and high enough to be on the second or third floor of the building. This couldn't be called a castle so much as it is a fortress. Armed and armored soldiers patrol both the grounds surrounding the building and atop the walls of the structure. Reaching the building, they find themselves waiting in line for over an hour. Only one matter and those involved are permitted entry at a time. They are escorted into audience by armed guards and stood before a large, ornate wooden desk. An elven woman in late middle age sits before them wearing more finery and jewels than most would think was prudent, almost as much as the kobold imperatrix might wear for matters of state. After brief introduction, our diplomatic envoy explains their purpose and that Texta had been strictly insular for well over a millennium and a half, only very recently deciding to open their borders to the outside. They're very careful to make no mention of the former pirates who had fled this government, and to speak in the Elven language to defer respect to the local order. Their documents were inspected and interpreted by a magistrate assisting the intendant. And after some deliberation, our emissaries were told that the matter would be brought to the attention of the Sovereign Council, and if they deem it fit, a letter of notice would be sent to the government of Texta to discuss trade. Only after this initial meeting, our envoys faded into the crowd of the port city and sought out a particular very old half-orc blacksmith named Otgrith in the poorer districts of the city. Once he was found, our travelers spoke only in Goblin. They offered news that the line of Udeskio survived, and brought much the same offers of trade as they had given the intendant. This conversation was much quieter and less formal. As proof of their word and intention, they gave the half-orc a dagger which he recognized as one he had made for Captain Pelou years before. In response, he handed them a silver coin with an X stamped over the face on one side. He told them to deliver it to Pelou, and that trade could begin as soon as she wished. This one heading due west from Texta. It might actually make a decent campaign if you fast travel the first big chunk of it. The whole intrigue aspect of it, doing two missions at the same time, trying to make nice with the local government, and hooking into the local pirates and smugglers. There'd be a lot of persuasion checks along the way, and getting caught would make for a lot of problems from every direction. It would make Texta's first official enemy, no matter which side caught you. This makes 7 out of our 8 compass directions. There's only one left before we've got the whole map. Let me know what you think. Tell me your ideas. Tell me what you think I got wrong. I'd love to hear about it. As always, like, share, comment, and subscribe. And I'll talk to you next time.